You're listening to the School of Hard Knock Knocks podcast with me, Maury Morgan.
Ladies and gentlemen, your next comedian.
Shouldn't drink on an empty head, you know that, don't you?
That is the shittiest heckle I have ever heard in my life.
Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
What's a bucket list?
You have dangerously underprepared yourself for the shit that is about to get real.
TV commercials, movies, stage and stand-up comedy. Not to forget, although we'd prefer that you did, an appearance on Hey Hey It's Saturday's Red Faces makes CJ Fortuna a man of many talents. More recently, he starred in the stand-up comedy movie The Heckler, the screwball comedy Spin Out, won Best Actor in the Japanese Short Film Festival for Big City and featured in a web series called Hactresses. Yeah, this man is busy. In this School of Hard Knock Knocks podcast interview, CJ Fortuna shares how he got started in stand-up comedy, why he thinks alcohol can be a hindrance, not a help in a comedy career, as well as a quick plug for his own comedian interview series called Comedians in Bars Drinking Beer. It's almost as good as this one. So, if you're a bit of an actor mixed with a bit of a joker, then you'll thoroughly enjoy this interview with CJ Fortuna. Good afternoon, CJ. How are you?
G'day, Maury. How are you, mate?
Very good, CJ. Thanks, Matt. I should say Chris James.
Well, yes, it is officially Christopher James on the birth certificate, mate.
Very good. So CJ keeps you out of trouble, is it?
CJ just sort of came as a bit of a nickname back in high school. We all wanted to be cool down at the foreshore with all the bloody tourists. Trying to be cool, so we gave each other nicknames, and I ended up being CJ, which happens to be the same name as Pamela Anderson on Baywatch, but anyway.
Oh, that's true. That's true. And when you say foreshore, we're talking about Warrnambool, aren't we?
Warrnambool. Grew up in Warrnambool, and they've got the Surfside 1 and 2, so it's a bit of a holiday destination down there over the summer. So yeah, growing up down there was fantastic. But good to get out of there too.
Yeah, good to get out. Those that don't know Warrnambool, maybe they're not from Victoria. So Warrnambool's the western district of Victoria, west of Melbourne.
That's right. We're probably looking between Melbourne and Adelaide.
Yeah,
and we're pretty close to the 12 Apostles.
You are, yeah. And you are good for whale sightings.
Yeah, you can see the whales down there.
It's Shipwreck Coast. It's famous for hundreds or certainly many.
It is. There's a famous ship called the Mahogany, which they never found, which sunk around the area, and it's a bit of a local mystery. And they've got the Shipwreck Coast sort of your Flagstaff Hill down there, and they filmed actually a Tom Selleck film called Quickly Down Under down there.
Yeah.
And so when I was 17, that was my first little bit in a film. I was an extra.
Wow. Okay.
That's right. I had lunch with Tom Selleck's double.
Oh, you did? Did you?
Yeah.
Was it a real moustache that the double had, or he clipped it on?
Everything was real.
Really?
Everything.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, now, Warrnambool, we've just discussed, this is great for the tourism board. Warrnambool has whales, it has shipwrecks, it has movie stars, but it also seems per capita to have a pretty high number of stand-up comedians. Now, Dave Hughes and Tom Ballard both come from Warrnambool, and of course yourself.
Yeah.
So what's in the water?
That's right.
There's something funny about the water. Boom, boom.
Well, I don't know if it's the water, but maybe it's the whale residue. I don't know. You know what? For me, Warrnambool has a big arts sort of community.
Yep.
So I was involved in a theatre company called Holiday Actors, which was like a theatre company for teenagers from the age of 13 to 21. So during that period of my life, I did a show every year. And but I can't say the same for Hughesy. Hughesy, I never knew he was funny. He was a year above me at school.
Okay.
And he was good at his football and his cricket, and he was, good at mathematics. But years later, when I'm doing comedy in Melbourne, he rings me from Perth and says, "Hey, I'm doing stand-up. I heard you were as well. I'm coming to Melbourne. Can you put me up?" So, it all went from there.
Wow. Well, he was, in his early days, he's a dad now, isn't he? So things have changed. He's not only a dad, he's a millionaire. He was a slacker, and he was on the dole and on the couch and bumming cigs from his mates. That's obviously changed.
Well, I mean, Hughesy stopped drinking when he was 21.
Okay.
And I remember him telling me that he thought to himself, I better stop drinking, otherwise I won't be successful as a comedian. And he always knew what he wanted to do. So, I take my hat off to him for doing that. But I do remember him when he was drinking. And, there's a good reason why he gave up.
Fair enough. He's drank enough for his lifetime. Well, good name dropping. Thanks for that. Dave Hughes there. Well, technically I name dropped them.
Yeah.
Talking about other names of big names, Greg Fleet. Now, you alluded to it just a moment ago. It used to be called theatre sports. I think today people kind of reference improv or impro, depending on which side of the street you live on. I believe you got early influence by someone like Greg Fleet. Was he in town for a competition?
I actually did. You know, I was with Holiday Actors, but I was also with the Warrnambool Theatre Company. And when I was 17, at the Lady Bay Hotel, this is the first time I ever saw stand-up comedy live. Yep. I went with a group from the Warrnambool Theatre Company to go and see Wendy Harmer and the theatre sports champion.
Right.
So that was Greg Fleet, Tim Smith, Andy Goodwin, and Simon Rogers. So I sat there and watched this live performance, these guys just do all this improv, and they all did a bit of stand-up, and I just thought, wow, I wish I could do that. That's fantastic. So, you know, I think it was like 5 years later I ended up in Melbourne and met all of those blokes at the Esplanade Hotel on a Sunday afternoon, and it was heavily influenced by Greg and all of those boys.
And was that where you did your first open mic? Was it the Espy?
No, actually my first open mic was at the Star and Garter Hotel in South Melbourne.
Okay.
And that was on a Thursday night. And I know that's where Jim Owen and Bob Franklin used to do their stuff all the time, their cooking show and everything like that.
Yep.
So I went down there and I was a young, naive country boy with a couple of ideas, and I went down and I think my act is very kind of a little off-centre, always has been, still is. But I had someone come up to me after it and say, you should go down to the Espy and try it down there. So I did, and it all went from there.
Very good. And the Star and Garter, I live near there. It doesn't ring a bell, so I just quickly Googled it. It's closed now. It's probably apartments. So.
It's apartments. In fact, the last people that ran the Star and Garter Hotel Comedy Night opened up the Comics Lounge in North Melbourne.
Oh, there you go.
So the bar at the Comics Lounge is called the Garter Bar.
Oh, there you go. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, so you thought you'd learn comedy on this podcast and you're learning a bit of Aussie history instead.
There you go.
That's fantastic. Talking about Aussie history, good or bad, Red Faces, Hey Hey It's Saturday. I saw a very early CJ on that in my research.
Oh, Maury, I hate when people bring this up.
You're a goofy-looking kid. How old were you when you did that?
Oh, look, I think I was 24, 25.
You played an American, or you were trying to play an American jokingly.
Yeah, you know, I'd been doing stand-up for a year or so.
Yeah.
And I managed, but I didn't go out there and do what I do on stage. I went out there and did a character-driven piece, which I'd sort of written when I was 16, because I've been wanting to do Red Faces, you know, as a teenager. So, yeah, I didn't really have any TV-friendly routine. So I just came up with this character and went out there and did that. So I came second to an 86-year-old guy that played the Gumleaf.
Okay. Well, I think that describes the viewership of Hey Hey Saturday. Was that that was the first Hey Hey Saturday, wasn't it? Not the comeback.
It was, yeah. It was back in 94, 95 or something. Look, Maury, I was young and I needed the board game.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, did that daggy TV experience help or hinder your stand-up comedy career?
It did nothing. You know what it did? No, it gave me a bit of experience on live TV.
Yep.
I mean, when I walked out onto the studio and with the live audience and did it, it was quite shocking. But funnily enough, I had a gig the next day at the Espy.
Oh, yep.
So when the MC introduced me, he said, this guy was on Hey Hey It's Saturday last night. So I felt pretty good about myself, and I managed to be able to just talk about my experience. So it was a good gig.
Yep. Oh, look, I was a big fan of Hey Hey It's Saturday. It is like an old Christmas jumper that your nan knits you. At the time, it was lovely. But looking back on it, Jesus Christ, look at those photos. It's embarrassing, isn't it?
Oh, my, those days are gone, aren't they? The
It
world's
has.
changed.
Well, yeah, I think for the better. Man, blackface was probably pushing it a little bit too far. I think they forgot that they were no longer in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, I think so.
Poor old Daryl.
Yeah.
All right, so you just talked about writing comedy, and you said that your comedy wasn't suitable for Hey It's Saturday audiences and time slots. So I've seen some of your stuff. You're hilarious. I'll get to your acting in a moment as well. Where does your comedy come from? How do you get inspiration?
I think a lot of my comedy just comes, like, accidentally, to be honest. I mean, look, it's all a... just the way you think about things. And I think I've always been, tried to be funny. Just trying to make your friends laugh over the years, and then just collecting those ideas and then trying to put them on stage is what I've been doing. But I rely a lot on my acting and on my facial expressions and having a bit of it is a bit of a character. It's like a heightened me, like a different, another persona, which is, it's still me.
Yep.
And I never really talk about myself as in reality. I'll talk about myself kind of like it's been inspired by my reality. Is that too deep?
No. Oh, look, if you want to go deep, just listen to Steve Hughes' interview. That's deep. No, we're barely skin deep here.
Yeah.
No, that's good.
Oh, great, Steve Hughes. He's amazing. I love he's just socially very aware and is able to sort of articulate it very well.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I wish I could do that, but I kind of do it in code.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, you take people, your facial. Well, let's go there with your facial. So you're an actor. You've been trained in acting, and you've done movies, and we'll talk about one movie in particular. You've done a lot of TV advertising. I think there's a camera ad out there. There's a beer brand that uses you.
Yeah.
Both hilarious. Sketch comedy seems to be your forte. That facial expression, the tone of voice, and the body language.
I always wanted to be an actor, and doing stand-up comedy was just a sort of something like, oh yeah, I can do that.
Yep.
Just something to get me in the door. But acting was my first love.
Yep.
But look, growing up, I was obsessed with Robin Williams. And so, he was a comedian and actor, and I just love his acting because it was all, full of emotional content,
Yep.
No, but love the acting. You use a lot of the face and the body to sort of express the humour. I don't know how I do it. I've got no idea how, I couldn't explain to you how it's done. I just know that I just do it.
Yeah. Is it eyebrows or eyes or something you do? Certainly in the TV shows, which of course involve cameras that can zoom in, we see the emotion on the face, and it's excellent. Obviously, when you're on stage, there's less focus on the face of such, but you can definitely see it as well.
Yeah, growing up doing a lot of stage, I think everything is much larger. So once I got onto the screen, I had to sort of apply myself to sort of make it sort of a little less. I quite often go to an audition or do something, they're like, a little less, please. Trying to make something funny but also realistic.
So, well, that leads us into my next question, because, of course, the Heckler, where you play Mike, and Mike is a comedian wannabe, an up-and-comer, but he's terrible.
That's right. And it's a body swap film, Maury.
Classic body swaps.
Body swap film.
Yep.
So and it's actually a great little film that sort of has a bit of a comedy lesson in there.
Yes.
And that is the whole lesson about being yourself. And I know what happened in the film is basically I enter the body. I die at some stage, and I enter the body of a comedian, take over his career, and I'm really bad at it. But I get to a point where he trains me, the ghostly comedian who follows me around. This sounds weird, I know.
Yeah, no.
But and I learned to be able to speak my truth.
Yep.
And that's where the comedy comes from. So yeah, it's a beautiful little film. I love it. We actually took that film to the LA Comedy Festival and won Best Ensemble.
Great. What does an ensemble mean?
Best cast.
Okay.
like a good cast. Yeah.
Yep, fantastic. So had you lived that life? Have you been surrounded, or have you seen people like that who are terrible at doing stand-up, but super positive?
Oh, look, I took it all from myself. I've experienced a lot of ups and downs and lows and highs in comedy. I think my third gig ever at the ESPY, there was 400 or 500 people on a Sunday afternoon, and actually it might have been a Tuesday night where they had the professionals on, and I had a 7-minute spot, and I got out there and I was as stiff as a board, and I just did my routine like a robot, and the whole audience just ignored me and started talking. People were yelling out, "Get off, boo, boo." I just kept going. My heart was fluttering. It was awful, and I got off stage, and the MC comes back on and says, "What was wrong with that act?" And someone yelled out, "The microphone was on." And I think I had about 10 friends come and see me that day, and they were all on a table up at the top of the stage, and it was a big lesson. But look, when I did the Heckler, I drew from all of that.
Yeah.
It's very easy to be a bad comic.
Right. After the Heckler, you went straight in and you worked with another great comedian, a person I've interviewed before, Tim Ferguson from the Doug Anthony All-Stars, and that was a movie called Spin Out. That's right. Yeah, I actually I got the audition off the back of the Heckler. Yep. And so the Heckler had a good run, and it got me the audition for Spin Out, and I had a nice little role on Spin Out, and it was heaps of fun. Filmed it up in Shepparton. Mm-hmm. We stayed in a motel with a handful of other great actors for about 2 weeks, and the experience was just, mind-blowing. So, yeah, that was fantastic. And what's the premise of Spin Out? Spin Out is like a small country town. It's based around a B&S ball and a ute mustering. Yep. So the two main actors both driving utes around, and one of them wants to leave town, but then they realise they love each other. And my little character was called Buff, and I wore a green and gold tracksuit, and I was training a young bloke to beat the beer drinking record. So it was very ochre, very sort of country, very B&S ball, heaps of fun. Yep. Yeah. Yep. Oh, that's good. That's good. So, what projects you got coming up if people want to see you? Yeah. Well, look, I came up with a little short film idea, which got filmed the last year, and it's been doing all the rounds. It went to a Tribeca Film Festival, great. And recently been to the Japanese Short Film Festival. Yep. It's called Big City. I'm very proud of it, and I actually, not to toot my own horn, but I won Best Actor at the Japanese Short Film Festival. Excellent. Yes. Well, it surprised me because I was just being myself, but yeah, no. So that's a great little film. So I'd keep an eye out for Big City, it's called, and Big City. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've got a web series coming out soon. I'm involved in called Hactresses. So you might want to keep an eye out on that. I think that's coming out on YouTube. Yep, perfect. Yeah, and when it comes to stand-up, if anyone wants to see what I'm doing and what's coming up, yes, you can always go to my Facebook page, which is CJ Fortuna. Mm-hmm. That's with a big C and a big J, as opposed to my CJ page, which is a big C and a little J. Okay. Am I making sense, Maury? Yeah, I think so. I think people can Google you anyway, either way, if they can't find. Well, that's it. Yeah. I will put a link directly at the bottom of the show notes, as they say, and people can click on that easily and go straight to those pages. So that's fine. Do you have any stand-up coming up that people can see you at? I'm doing a bit at the Exford tomorrow night. Friday night I've got Kings of Comedy, and I'm doing a lot of footy clubs at the moment. But keep an eye out on my CJ Fortuna page, Facebook page, and there'll be more to come. Comics Lounge, I'll be there in a month or so. So if someone wants to book you for a web series, a TV commercial, to make a new movie, or break into the Japanese short film industry? Yes. Well, Maury, I with comedy, I manage myself, but with my acting, I do have a management. Okay.
Yes.
Who do they have to speak to get past gatekeepers?
Active artist management.
Active artists, very good.
Yeah. Been with them for 20 years. They've looked after me, for many years.
And you're residing in, you're no longer in Warrnambool, of course. You're down in, is it St Kilda? Is that where you're based now?
I am in St Kilda, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's Bev Killick's down in St Kilda. Quite a few comedians base themselves down there.
Yes,
well.
Bev and Husey and, God,
right.
heaps and heaps. A lot of comics down this area.
That's right.
Something in the water down here too, Mike.
Yeah, it's a great area. I live right next door too. So, look, before we go, of course, the people that listen to this podcast, they are comedian up-and-comers. They are doing their open mics, or maybe they haven't even started open mics and they're thinking of getting into stand-up comedy. What advice would you give to those just starting out?
Look, for me, when I started, here's some advice I'd give them. Don't get drunk. I probably sabotaged myself quite a bit over the years by having too much of a good time. I think you've got to focus, you've got to take it seriously, but at the same time have a lot of fun.
Yep.
I guess that's what I'd say. I remember back in the day, I lived with Husey when he moved to Melbourne. We both got a place together, and in the 90s, he was on the phone to Hey Hey Saturday booking gigs, and I'm in the other room smoking bongs.
Yep.
And so, that didn't work for me.
Yep.
Obviously, don't do that sort of thing anymore, Maury.
No, of course not.
But it's all about having a clear mind, and and when you're drunk, if you've had too much to drink while doing comedy, you think you're funnier than you are.
Yeah.
And believe me, I know that well. But so I'm just I'll get on stage now, sober and organised.
Yep. No, that's wise words. Well, it certainly worked for Husey. He has done amazing things. Obviously, it was a long ride, and he's worked very hard to get there as well. But I didn't know that he stopped drinking at 21. But
it was quite commendable. Yeah. But if anyone wants to, I've got a really good interview I do with Husey and about 8 other comics. I did a web series called Comedians in Bars Drinking Beer. So anyone can look that up. Good. Anyone's interested in doing stand-up, they can look that up because we talk about comedy and I actually made this while filming the Heckler. I was doing some research, and the Heckler crew created this show. And I interviewed a handful of comics, Bob Franklin and Husey and Hung Lee and heaps of others. Yep. Check that out if anyone wants to check that out.
I will add that to the link as well so people can click on it. That's excellent. And I didn't know about that, so I will also check it out. Yeah, I think you can go to thecomedycartel.com, which is the Heckler crew. Well, CJ Fortuna, thank you very much for your time. This has been very interesting. Hearing a little bit of how you got started, how acting and comedy became part of your life, and how you've done very well in the acting space, with obviously the sketch comedy being a large part of that. Well, thanks for that, Maury. It's been great talking to you. Always good to talk about myself. Find that
I don't
most
know if
comedians
it was particularly
like
that funny, but hopefully it was interesting. Yeah, no, we saved the comedy to the actual courses that we run. So, but no, very informative, and that's what we're after here. Good on you, mate. Appreciate that. We'll see you later. Thanks so much. Cheers. Bye.